Hello children, I am Mahima Tatwavedi, your science teacher, and today I am going to tell you about tissue and its types. In this video, I am going to emphasize on plant tissues and their types. So what is a tissue? Tissue is actually a group of cells. If we talk about the levels of organization, then cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. Maybe plants or animals, whatever. But the cell is the basic unit, right? So after that, which is the next level of organization? The next level is tissue. In a tissue, a group of cells come together to perform a particular specific function. Similarly, a few tissues of different types, they come together to form an organ, and organs come together to form organ systems, which in turn form an organism. So, defining tissue, we can say a tissue is an ensemble of similar cells and their extracellular matrix from the same origin that together carry out a specific function. Now we have the types of tissues. Children, there are mainly two types of tissues, plant tissues and animal tissues. So the name itself tells you that plant tissues are the tissues which are found in plants and animal tissues are the tissues which are found in animals. Children, as I have already told you that in this video I will mainly emphasize on different types of plant tissues. So here, as you can see the flow chart describing the different types of plant tissues. Broadly, the plant tissues are of two types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Then meristematic tissue is again of three types, that is apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. Then if we talk about permanent tissue, then permanent tissue is again of two types, that is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Now, simple permanent tissue again has three types, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Here, the parenchyma is again divided into two types, erenchyma and chlorenchyma. So, these are not basically the types. Parenchyma itself also exists and erenchyma and chlorenchyma are its variation. I will tell you about these in detail in the later slides. Then sclerenchyma again has two parts, that is sclerenchyma fibers and sclerids. Now complex permanent tissue is of two types, xylem and phloem. Now children, let's know more about the meristematic tissue. A meristem is a tissue in plants that consists of undifferentiated cells capable of cell division. That means these cells are not differentiated into any particular cell type. They just have to keep on dividing into more and more cells. These are the type of cells which belong to meristematic tissue. Meristems give rise to various tissues and organs of a plant and are responsible for growth. Differentiated plant cells generally cannot divide or produce cells of a different type. Meristematic cells are all living cells. The meristematic cells can be oval or rounded or polygonal in shape. They have a large nucleus with no vacuoles. Intercellular space between cells is absent. So children, the basic thing to emphasize about meristematic tissue is that these cells are not differentiated into any particular cell type and then they keep on dividing. They are all living cells and they have no intercellular space between them. So far, we have discussed about the characteristics of meristematic tissue. Now, we will discuss about types of meristematic tissue. There are basically three types of meristems based on the position in which they are located, right. So, the first type is apical meristem, which is present on the apex part, that is the tips. It is present on the root and shoot tips, and it is basically responsible for growth of root and shoot. The second type is intercalary meristem. It is present on leaf base and node. जहाँ से लीफ की कनेक्टिविटी होती है प्लांट से, उस जगह को लीफ बेस कहते हैं, वहीं पर ही नोडल रीजन होता है, वहाँ पर प्रेजेंट होता है इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम. It is basically responsible for growth of plant from leaf and nodes. Then is lateral meristem. It is present on sides of stem and root. So, as we can understand, this meristem is present on the sides of stem and root. That means it is responsible for increase in diameter of stem and root. That means in all, the meristematic tissue is responsible for increase in length and breadth of the plant. Children, last we have discussed about meristematic tissue. Okay, so meristematic tissue is a temporary kind of tissue, we can say, because the cells keep on dividing and they also keep on differentiating into different types of cells. Now we are going to talk about simple permanent tissue. Permanent, why permanent? Because these types of cells which are once made, they remain of that kind only. They do not differentiate into any other type of cell. So, these tissues are simple, they are made up of only one type of cell. Here all the cells that make up the tissue are similar and have the same structure. Simple permanent tissues are again classified into three main types. The types are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. First type is parenchyma. Parenchyma is also called as parenchymatous tissue. The cells of this tissue are living with thin cell walls. Cells can be oval or round in shape. They have a large central vacuole and a dense cytoplasm. The parenchyma tissue is located in the soft parts of the plant. It mainly acts as a packing tissue, providing mechanical support. It also helps in the storage of food because they have large vacuoles. Based on the specific functions, parenchyma can be further classified into erenchyma and chlorenchyma. So, erenchyma is a soft plant tissue containing air spaces. Name itself tells you erenchyma, which has air spaces. It is found especially in many aquatic plants. Then we have chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is a parenchyma tissue that contains chloroplasts and is photosynthetic. So, parenchyma tissue exists on its own, and then erenchyma and chlorenchyma are just the variants which are found in certain kinds of plants. The second type of simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. These cells are living cells and have an elongated shape. So, there is a difference in shape of parenchyma and collenchyma. Next is the corners of the cell wall are thickened. There is very little intercellular space present. The collenchyma tissue can be located in the leaf stalks, below the epidermis, etc. Its main function is to provide flexibility to the plants as well as mechanical support. The third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. The cells of the sclerenchyma tissue are dead. Children, this is a very important difference and a point to note that the sclerenchyma tissue has dead cells. The cell wall is very thick due to the deposition of lignin. The cells of this tissue can be in different shapes and sizes. They are generally located in the leaf veins, hard coverings of the seeds, and can also be found surrounding the vascular bundle. The main function of this sclerenchymatous tissue is to provide rigidity and mechanical support to the plant body. They also make the plant stiff and hard. Children, as of now, you all have understood the different characters of all the simple permanent tissues present in plants. Here, looking at the pictures, you will be better able to understand the structural differences between these tissues. The first two diagrams are of parenchyma. As you can see in the transverse section that there are some intercellular spaces, and in the longitudinal section you can see that they have large vacuoles, right. The next two diagrams are of collenchyma. In the transverse section we can see that there are longitudinal cells, right. As we have already mentioned that collenchyma has longitudinal cells, okay. They have proper cell walls and there is very less intercellular space between them or almost negligible. Now, if we talk about the last two diagrams, then these diagrams are of sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma basically has dead cells. So, we can see there is no cellular organelles within the cell, as it is they are dead cells, and there is huge deposition of lignin in the cell wall. So, that is how it can be differentiated, that how these three types of tissues are different from each other, and according to their structures their functions are also different. After simple permanent tissue, we have complex permanent tissue. The first type is xylem. The xylem tissue is responsible for the conduction of water and minerals from the roots to the leaves and stem and an entire plant. Wherever the water and minerals are to be supplied, there is xylem tissue located over there. So, anyways, xylem covers almost whole plant body. Then it also provides support to the plants. It has 4 elements. The elements are tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. So, these are different cell types which have come together to form one kind of tissue, right. So, that is why it is called as a complex permanent tissue. The earlier ones which we have discussed, they had similar kind of cells throughout the tissue, and in this the complex one, the types of cells are there. Here we have 4 types. Again I am repeating the names: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. The second complex permanent tissue is phloem. This complex permanent tissue helps in the translocation of food that is prepared by photosynthesis in the leaves to various parts of the plant. Phloem, this also consists of 4 elements. The elements are sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. So, all these 4 types of cells come together to form the complex permanent tissue that is called as phloem, and this xylem and phloem, both of them are together called as vascular bundles. Thank you.